Hey guys, it's Omni. Today I wanted to create a short video talking about elements in Genshin Impact and how they interact with each other. I really hope you guys find this information useful and that it can help your game in Genshin Impact. Also, I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday on Twitch. You can check me out at twitch.tv/omnipotenttv, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Okay, to start this video off, we have a nice little diagram that I found on Google that shows all of the elemental interactions within Genshin Impact. Right now I've got my webcam off just so you can see these a little bit better. But let's start with wind. So wind, when it comes in contact, or anemo or anemo, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, when it comes in contact with pyro, hydro, cryo, or electro, it swirls. And it absorbs the first element it comes in contact with. It deals elemental damage, affects the characters inside of it, and generates further elemental interactions. So that shows that whenever you deal damage with a wind skill against pyro, hydro, cryo, or electro, it swirls, it deals more damage from that element that it's swirled with, and it can also cause further interactions. Like, let's say you have cryo and electro in the swirl. You can also cause superconduct, which is between electro and cryo, which deals cryo AoE damage. You can have superconduct within that swirl dealing more damage. So swirl is an excellent one to toss on top of already previous elemental interactions like superconduct or electrocharge or just other interactions. The next elemental interaction we have is Crystallize. So when you use Geo against any of these elements, pyro, hydro, cryo, or electro, it generates elemental shards, providing a corresponding elemental shield. The elemental shield looks like just a little bubble with that specific color of that element. So if you have an elemental shield of pyro, it would just be a reddish elemental shield. Elemental shields absorb all damage for a specific amount, and it is effective against corresponding elemental damage, but it is vulnerable against opposing element types. So, for example, if you had a pyro elemental shield and the opponent you were fighting was using hydro, even though you had an elemental shield, you are still vulnerable because hydro is very, very effective against pyro. And this is a little bit of an odd one out, but it just makes sense. Now we have burning. So burning is between pyro and dendro, and you'll actually notice this is the only place where dendro is on the chart at all. So dendro is a pretty lonely element, I guess you would say. It doesn't really interact with anything else very well except with pyro, and it only gets more damage dealt against it. So if you're looking to deal large amounts of damage through elemental interactions, you normally don't want to use dendro. But if you do come up against a dendro enemy, you want to go ahead and use pyro, which will deal ongoing pyro damage. Alright, now let's get to this nice looking element right here, this purple one. So electro is a very, very reactive element in this game. Electro can react with pyro to cause overload, which creates an explosion and deals pyro AoE damage, which means area of effect, and it also effectively breaks geo shields. Now electro also reacts with water, hydro, and this will cause electrocharge. It deals ongoing electro damage for a duration. And then finally, electro also reacts with cryo, which causes superconduct, and it deals cryo area of effect damage and reduces the target's physical defense, which that is important because if you have an opponent that is high in physical defense, you can use lightning and cryo, or electro and cryo, and cause superconduct, which will decrease their defense, making them more vulnerable to physical attacks, like just swiping with your sword or shooting them with just regular arrows. Now for these last bit of elemental interactions, let's talk about pyro and hydro, which causes vaporize. Vaporize deals additional elemental damage, however, it also dissipates when the effect occurs. So this Vaporize tends to be a little bit like a one-time elemental interaction where someone is a Hydro enemy and you hit them with Pyro and it deals Vaporize once and that's it. So Vaporize doesn't tend to swirl very well, so try not to use it with Wind. Now let's talk about Hydro and Cryo, which causes Frozen. And as soon as someone is frozen, you can also shatter them. So when someone's frozen, it's because they have become wet from either standing in water, being in rain, or being hit by a Hydro ability. And then they are hit by a Cryo ability, which causes them to be frozen. Frozen targets become immobile, and you can also shatter those frozen targets with heavy attacks, such as hitting them with a Claymore, hitting them with a plunge attack, which is like jumping down from the air and slamming down on them, or also using geo damage. Now finally, our last interaction is Melt, which is between Cryo and Pyro. And Melt is from a Cryo or Pyro attack meeting each other, and it just deals increased damage. Now I haven't found that Melt swirls very well, so if you could keep Vaporize and Melt away from Swirl, normally you want to use Overload, Electrocharge, Superconduct, or Frozen in Swirl. I've noticed those all work pretty well. And that will do some good elemental interactions in your game. Now, let's see these in the actual game. We'll show examples of all of these. So here we see an example of Pyro and Swirl. So we used Amber and her bow to cause Pyro, and then we used the Traveler and his elemental skill to cause Swirl. Here is the same thing. We have Swirl, but instead with Pyro, we use Hydro. And the same thing as well, instead of Hydro, we were using Cryo here. And here is one final swirl, which is the swirl with Electro. Now here we have an example of Crystallize. So we used Amber to cause Pyro, and then we have the Traveler, who is resonating with Geo, which then he used his elemental skill and cause that shard and then the shield of Pyro. This is the same thing, except it's a shield of Hydro, and this crystallizes again and becomes a shield of Cryo. And here we have one final Crystallize example, which is the Crystallize with Electro causing the purple shield. And here, the elemental interaction we're looking at is Burning. So that is a Dendro slime, and we used Amber to cause Pyro on it. Now here we are showing an example of Overloaded, which was Pyro and Electro. And our next example here is going to be Superconduct, which is Electro and Cryo. And that's Overloaded and Superconduct. Now this next example is Electroshock, and that is between Electro and Hydro. This example here is Vaporize, and that's between Pyro and Hydro. We missed that shot there, but here is the Vaporize. And now this one is Freeze between Hydro and Cryo. And then I tried shattering with a Claymore, but that didn't really work. And finally, our last example for our video is Melt, which is between Pyro and Cryo. I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I really hope this tutorial increased your knowledge on the elemental interactions in Genshin Impact. One last time, if you guys want to check out my Twitch, I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And you can check me out there. You'll also find me on my Instagram as well. And I hope you guys have a great day. You really enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you liked it, a dislike if you didn't like it, and subscribe if you want as well. Have a good day, you guys.